Hi everyone and welcome back to season 2 of Azure for Show. As always, I'm your host Stephen Sam and I am super duper excited with this season. It's been almost a year since we streamed this live show. If you're someone who is joining us for the very first time, this is a live show that we do in the first quarter of the year. This is the second season we're doing. Last time we did 10 episodes in the Q1 and Q2. We started with February also the last season and we're also starting with February, and we have a very interesting line of guests already. We are booked till episode number 9. I think we have only one slot left. But everyone, welcome back. I see many folks joining us from LinkedIn, and we have also Sarah joining us. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. So this show is going to be about somewhere between 25 to 30 minutes, and we're gonna dive straight away into the content. Once we do a quick chit chat with the speaker, talking about the speaker, today we have Tiago Costa. He is a community rock star. He's pretty popular with his Azure certification sessions, but today he's not going to do that, but something else, which is pretty exciting. He is a cloud architect. He's a Microsoft MVP. He's an advisor. He's a trainer. He's an international speaker. In a nutshell, he is a complete rock star. So without any further ado, let's bring our guest, Tiago. Hi, Tiago. Welcome to the live
Yeah.
show.
Okay. It's a very, very big honor to be here, and you have to add that also to that list that I do sessions with Simon. Okay, so you add that there.
Oh.
Okay. No, it's a big honor to be here, and more even to be the first episode here on the season 2. It's yeah,
Yeah,
great.
it's the inaugural episode. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. Really appreciate it. So, Tiago, today you're going to talk about a very interesting title that says, "I find your lack of Azure governance disturbing." It's a pretty catchy title, I would say, and I think this is something
Yeah, I
people
think
would.
I think I think you can see here in the background. Okay, you can't see the full thing, but
Mhm.
from where I kind of got inspired to build a title
Oh,
like
really?
this. Yeah, but it's kind of a Star Wars reference. But I kind of have a few sessions with that. But it is really true. Okay, because if you're not govern your resources
Mhm.
in Azure, you're just doing it wrong. I
Yeah.
can't say this in another way. And I've been helping customers when I'm doing consulting, helping them a lot in this topic, governance, cost management, and all of this. And a little bit this session is kind of inspired and all that work, and it has been shocking to see organizations that are big, that they still don't have any kind of governance, or when they have is a little bit poor. And after we do some consulting with them, what they can get more is really a great benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty useful for all the folks who are joining us and will watch us later on. So, Tiago, I'm not going to take any more time from you. I see you have shared your screen. I have added it to the stream, and you're good to go. And everyone who's joining, if you want to ask any questions to Tiago, you can use the comments. And if there are any, we will answer them towards the end, or maybe Tiago can pick on the fly. All right, Tiago,
Yeah,
it's time
sure.
to go.
That sounds lovely. Okay, so yeah, let's go. And yeah, again, so thanks everyone, to be here with me. So a short presentation about myself. I think Simon already kind of resumed it, but yeah, I work as a cloud architect and advisor for Azure. I'm a trainer. I help people getting certified, and more important, I help them understanding Azure and getting the knowledge to be able to work in the field and do amazing projects with the cloud. I'm also the author of some courses online and some content that you might that other MCTs they might deliver for you. And I usually speak in some conferences that they range from the local meetup to the little bit more big events like Microsoft Ignite, Microsoft Build, something like that. Yeah, I work as an independent contractor, and look, I have a bunch of other stuff that really doesn't matter, and titles and awards and certifications. I just want to make a reference on something that I'm very passionate about, which is traveling. I'm always traveling. I'm like kind of a global traveler, and I've been in 77 countries already, and that's kind of a life achievement to get to 100. So I'm getting there. 23 remaining for me to get to that point. I don't want to visit all the countries in the world. I'm sure It will be awesome, but I'm sure I can't do that. To be honest, there are some countries that unfortunately it's not that safe to travel today. But sure, 100. I think it's feasible. So let's get started with our session here today. And what are we going to talk about? So very quickly, what is the cloud today? Okay, what's the status of the cloud in my opinion here? And then just to make a reference on two things that I'm not going to talk about that much today, which is CAF and WAF. So cloud adoption framework and the well-architected framework. I have other sessions where I just talk about this because they're such a big topics. I will never cover them well enough in this session, and also talking about the other stuff that I really wanted. But then subscription management groups, policies, and cost management. And it's, as you can see, it is already a lot. Okay. So, what is the cloud today? Cloud is a very complex environment nowadays, as you can imagine. We run millions of resources with the cloud. We don't run just Azure. We also run other cloud providers. And even today, I was in a customer meeting where we were just discussing, multi-cloud hybrid. They're also using AWS already, and they plan to also use GCP for some specific project. And we want to have this kind of this environment, this multi-cloud environment. So something to add more to the complexity. And Azure Cloud is not just that project for just that business unit, that department that is using. No, it's all across the organization. And then of course this even makes it harder because the projects are bigger and bigger, and we have more actors here that intervene in the projects. So when we talk a little bit about some of the cloud management capabilities, I usually like to show this. And as you can see here very quickly, it's not just governance. We also have other things to worry about: security, data protection, monitoring, configurations. Of course, it's not just governance, but today, look, we're just here to talk about the governance part, which includes stuff like policy-based management. So we need to assess our environment to make sure that basically our environment, our Azure environment, is according with corporate policies. Sometimes because you have regulation that you need to fulfill, or sometimes because you as a company just created your own policies, your own rules. Like I have customers that they don't have to follow any special, regulation, but for, cost perspectives and for latency on their workloads to be lower, etc., they just restrict, for example, the regions where they can deploy resources. It's a policy, an internal policy that you as a company created, but they always exist. Also talk about cost management. Look, more than ever, it's always important to be cost sensitive. For sure, I don't want to pay more than what I need. So that's very, very important, something that we have here. I also need to worry about this and resource visibility. And believe me, for someone that is just getting started with Azure, you might not get this part. And I'm sure I understand that, but in a real world scenario, it is hard to find the resources because there are so many that, you really struggle sometimes to find that NSG or, the VM that has something. So we really need to find ways, to make this easier to find, those resources. And then, of course, subscription governance. Look, the subscription itself. So I don't start to just give away, subscriptions, like you just, just distribute like cookies to your kids, just, yeah, have one, whatever. Okay. Don't care. But you really need to be careful with this. I'm not going to give a subscription just because. And how does that subscription get started? Maybe, you should have a range of things already there to get started. And this is also when DevOps comes into place and how we can deploy things with DevOps. That's should always be okay. through some DevOps processes. I'm not saying Azure DevOps, by the way, okay? Azure DevOps is a great tool. It's one of my favorite ones, but there are other DevOps tools. Just use one. I honestly not going to be picky here saying you should use that one or the other one. I have preferences, but as long as you use some DevOps approach, I'm more than okay to that. So just to resume CAF and WAF. So the cloud adoption framework is basically a life cycle framework that enables us architects, to basically achieve our goals. Provides what? A bunch of best practices, a bunch of documentation, tools, so that we can align the strategies that our customers have, usually business strategies, with the cloud, with Azure. And this is, if you go and check this on Learn. So it's learn.microsoft.com and then /architecture. And then you could Azure architecture, sorry, Azure /architecture. And then you can find it there. You will find, loads of articles, lots of text. I usually call this, Netflix for cloud architects, because on Netflix, when people are seeing, an episode, then, oh, just one more episode of this amazing series that I'm watching. Oh, and then just one more. And then you look at your watch and you're like, oh, damn, it's like, I don't know, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. So, this is kind of the stuff, when I started reading this, I just start, whoa, this is great. And I'd read another one and another one and another article and another article, and then links to something else. And the information is so cool. If you love this like I do, okay, that you just, you really need to be careful with your time on this, okay? There are some pillars with this, and they start with defining a strategy, then we plan, okay? Then we get ready with like landing zones. We start to build like landing zones, implementation options, etc. Then there's an adoption phase where if we need to migrate, we migrate. If we need to do some app modernization, we do some app modernization processes, or we innovate, stuff like that. In all of those, there are like 3 other pillars that you always need to look for: security, management, and governance. Okay, so governance, there you go, another part that is a pretty important part. This is pretty, open, so it's not specific to a certain, service or something like that. With this, we have the well architected framework where, we have all these pillars that we have here: cost optimization, operational excellence, performance efficiency, reliability, and security. This is more techy and is specific for, let's just do this, let's follow some best practices that I have for, I don't know, app services. I need to do this for app services next week, by the way. And we're just going to the well architected framework, app services, and, for security, there's already a bunch of recommendations there, and let's be honest, can you do more? Sure, you could do more if you want, but at least this is just already so well tested by the Microsoft engineers based on all the feedback, all their being in the field, their CSA is being in the field, that they just created this as like, just there, just use it as like a minimal, viable product that's just there, that's kind of the minimal. Just use that, because if you do that, believe me that your Azure workloads will be already very well protected. But then, of course, you can even do more. Sure. Okay. But let's get started. I mean, subscriptions. Okay. And if we talk about subscription, what is an Azure subscription? It's a logical unit, okay, of Azure services. So I have Azure services. I need to drop them inside a subscription. Without a subscription, I don't have, I can't create resources. It's also a security boundary, because you can do role-based access control and say, hey, Tiago is going to be able to deploy stuff, so create things in that, subscription. For DevOps processes, you can have like, like through managed identities and things like that, you can just say, yeah, look, that pipeline in Azure DevOps, for example, is able to create things in that subscription. But then you have four others where that DevOps process don't even see them. Okay, so there is, this kind of protection. But it's also a billing layer. And I like to you call this a lazy billing layer. I have customers using this as their billing, boundaries for them. So it's very easy for them to just say, "Oh, subscription 1 cost us, $25,000 this month. Um, Subscription 2, 55, whatever." And it's very easy for them because then internally they need to charge back that money to certain departments and things like that. I'm not a fan, as you already imagined, doing this with subscription. There are tags, and you can tag your resources, and via the magic of Power BI, you can then build some cool reports, and you can still get the same information, but you don't need to create subscriptions just because of creating billing layers, because then it comes with other cons in here, okay, especially in the infrastructure as a service world, where like a VNet can only be in one subscription, so it doesn't cross subscriptions and things like this, and then you're going to get billed a little bit more money because of this approach. And then it's connected to a single Azure AD tenant. So we have something like this. We have an Azure AD tenant. I have subscription 1, and all my accounts that I have on that Azure AD tenant, like Tiago at company.com, you know Simon at company.com, so we're all in the same tenant in terms of identity. And then of course, I can have more than one subscription, and all those subscriptions, they need to connect with an AD tenant, and they can be connected with the same Azure AD tenant. In this case here, for example, all of them are in the same AD tenant, okay? And then, of course, you can tell me, "Oh, but now I want subscription 2 to move to another tenant." Sure, you can do this if you want. It is possible, to do something like that. Of course, you have to be careful with the messages, because they're going to tell you that, all the rule-based access control, or you can lose the rule-based access control, because if the identity that has the RBAC assignment is not in the new tenant where you're going to, migrate the subscription, all those RBAC permissions are going to be lost. So again, be careful doing this kind of stuff. Okay, but yeah, it is possible. What about management groups? Because we're going to have lots and lots and lots of subscriptions. It's normal. Okay. So management groups is something that, we're going to put this in a level above subscriptions, so that we can kind of manage groups of subscriptions. And we can have what you see here. I can have a tree, a hierarchy of management groups. So I have a management group here called tenant root group. Then I have a ES one, and then I have here on the bottom here, I have like some more, okay, like landing zones, platforms, sandboxes, decommission, and so on. So there's a lot of stuff, that we can create in this hierarchy. I think it's like 6 levels still that we can do, and this could become a big tree in some organizations. Yes, it is. And then you can do what? You can do RBAC into the management groups here. I could just say, "Hey, this management group here, yes, platform." And imagine it only has here one subscription, but imagine that it had like 3. And I can just say, "Yes, Tiago is going to have permissions here as a contributor." So yeah, I'm now contributor in all the subscriptions that I will have under, that management group. So pretty cool stuff. You can also do budgets, track costs through management groups. You can also apply policies through management groups. So all of this, it is possible. Benefits that we have with this: logical representation of your organization, but always forget. Sorry, let me rephrase. Always don't forget something here, which is this: structures in organizations change. Oh, we have a reorg, right? And then you need to build this in a way that easily then you can tweak your management group strategy and your management group hierarchy to be, now similar to your organization new structure. So always be careful with that. And of course, you can apply policies, you can govern basically over subscription. So now I just have here what? I just have here like I just want to do like a demo, okay, on management group. So let's just go to this part here. And when I get to management groups, I just need to search for, here for uh management. There you go, management groups. And you can see here some examples of management groups. I have like here tree structure, and as you can see here, I have like branches and then corp and then others. And if I go here under, for example, a corp, you can see that I have here two subscriptions under corp. If I go to branches and I expand branches, I have like here, oh, Asia, for example, the APAC region. And in the APAC region, I have a subscription for Singapore. In this my demo company here, we have some business in Singapore, and we just created a subscription for them there. In Europe, I have like four subscriptions, and like four subscriptions in here, and North America, again, some more subscriptions in here. I also have stuff like, for example, this, like Sandbox, new subscriptions, So why do I do this, and why do I have this as like best practices in here for me? Because when you create new subscriptions, you need to drop them into this management group. And this management group doesn't have almost any permissions, so that then you can take care of them, you can deploy wherever you need them, and then when you know where to place them, you're going to place them in the right place. But almost no one will have permissions, okay, to create resources and to see those subscriptions that were created, and they are in this management group. Sandbox, so that you kind of can create like exceptions to policies and stuff like this. So you can create like a playground for your teams to create some stuff. I usually advise people to have their own Azure AD tenant and then put this in the new Azure AD tenant, but sometimes we can't get that. So this is a way also to get that. Under settings here on the left, a very important part is this, the default management group for new subscriptions, okay? So this is what you need to come in here, and you need to change this. So in my case, it's already the new subscriptions, okay? But you just need to select, that one, so that you're sure that new subscriptions in this tenant, they always go to that management group, okay? A big tip of this. Almost, I don't see that many people doing something like this. And as you can imagine, this is like super super important. What is next? So next we go with policies, okay? And policies, oh my gosh, it's a brand new, this is a big world, okay, to be totally honest. What are Azure policies? So we can create, assign, and manage policies with this. uh Examples, Tiago. Let's just go with, some examples, and I'll come back to that slide in a moment. So, allowed locations. It's a built-in policy that we have, that what this is going to do is very simple. If I'm trying to create resources in a location, so in a region where I'm not supposed, because I'm not allowed, because there's a policy that denies, that I'm not going to be able to create. So, let's just go here and let's do a sample with this. I'm going to create a resource, and let's just say I want to create, I don't know, like a storage account, for example. And, storage account, let's create the storage account. And I'm now going to select, one of my regions. I'm going to select the AZ Contoso UK. I already have a policy assigned to this subscription that says all the resources need to be in one of the UK regions. The UK has two different regions. So one or the other is fine, but it needs to be one of those. So let me just put here, SA and then some random numbers. And I'm going to leave the region as East US. That's great. That's not UK. So that is great. And if you click review right away, this is going to give you an error saying, hey, sorry, but I can't create this. Okay, see, there you go. Validation failed. We click here and we get this. Oh, there's a policy called allowed locations UK. And, creation of this resource here was disallowed by the policy. So, yeah, sure. Look, you just can't do this. Of course, if I go basics and I change this to UK and I select one of the UK regions, whatever, and I go back and I review, now you're going to see that the create button in the top left corner, it's going to be blue. That means, yeah, everything is good. You can click and I'm going to create this because we already, passed the policy on this. Where can you see all this? So you go home, you select policy, and then under policy here, what you can do here is you can just go, for example, in my case, assignments, and you can see that I already have an assignment in here. And I have plenty of assignments, but this is the one that I was looking for, allowed locations UK. And you click on that, and you can see here, oh, list of allowed locations, parameter values, UK South, UK West, it's here, okay? And you can also see the scope of, this assignment. And here in the scope, you can see that that is the subscription. If it was a resource group, it will have the subscription forward slash, and then the name of the resource group. I can show you one. I have, like, for example, this year, naming policy for VNets, this one here is this last part there is the resource group. Okay. So it will show you like this. But yeah, cool stuff, right? That we have here. So, and let me believe this is not hard to build, to be totally honest. Other examples of amazing policies that I have: allowed resource types. Look, I'm doing governance for a customer right now. And what we have is we just collected, okay, this is the services that you're already using. And this is the services that you want to use in the very near future. Sure, great. So we collected that. Those are, those. And we build a policy just for those. If you try to create, for example, in their case, a Cosmos DB, you can't. Okay, because they don't have any Cosmos DB. They don't plan, in the very, very near future to use that. So they cannot. But I'm sure I have projects with them where I want to use Cosmos DB. Sure. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to do governance for Cosmos DB and saying how should this customer run this service, Cosmos DB. This is how they should run it. Security wise, billing wise, all of that. This involves having tons of meetings with stakeholders in the customer until we agree. This is the definition. Sure. Then we create policies to make sure that those decisions are going to be fulfilled. And then, of course, look, we just go to this one, okay, to this policy, and we're just going to say allowed resource types Cosmos DB. Then we start to allow, Cosmos DB on this too. So that's the idea of of this. Then of course, other stuff like allowed virtual machine SKUs. This is a very popular one for me. Azure has those very small VMs, and Azure has those very big, really big virtual machines. The question to you now is this: do you need those very, very, very big virtual machines? Even maybe not the very, very big, but the biggest ones that you are allowed to create in your subscription. And most times, the answers that I get from my customers is, no way. We don't have the need for that. So, but you have them there. It's not the first, it's not going to be the last time for sure that someone, by mistake, curiosity sometimes, creates a very large virtual machine just to see how it is. And then you're spending, Azure credits. You're spending money with this. We don't want this, okay? We clearly don't want that. Require tags, you know, and its values, enable Azure Backup for naming conventions. Look, there's so many examples that we can give you. And then, look, there are different effects that we can have on our policies, okay? There is a pen audit, a bunch of them. Okay, I'm not going to cover, we don't have time for all of this, but you get, this year. But I'll just cover some. For example, deny. So what does deny does? When you're trying to create a resource, like I did that on that storage account I was trying to create, it denies you from creating that. So yeah, I couldn't create the storage account. And that is something that doesn't happen only using the Azure portal. If I try to do that using CLI, an ARM template, Bicep, whatever, PowerShell, whatever, it's always going to be the same result. This runs in the ARM layer. Okay. Then I have another one called audit. Also a big fan of the audit, and with audit, it is pretty cool because with audit, what I can do is, it will just audit, and then, what it does this. Okay. Let me just move this here. When you go here to compliance, okay, you're able here in compliance, to check what is the status of your compliance. And it will just tells you that it lets you create stuff, okay, no problem. But in my case, for example, lets me checks that I'm 54% compliant, which, believe me, for some companies, it's a dream still today. It should not be, but it is. Okay, it's a work in progress for those companies. Okay, so there you go. So that's just some examples that we have here. But then where can I assign this? Well, we basically can assign this to a scope. The scopes can be the management group, could be a specific subscription, or it can be the resource group. Those are the possible scopes that we have to do this. So cool stuff, that I have with this. And if we want to do a demo again on how, you know, to assign a policy, it is really easy. We have definitions, and there are multiple ways to do this. This is just one of the ways, okay? We can go to definitions, and under definitions, we search the policy that we want to assign. And as you can see, I have here custom policies and I have the built-in policies. Only the built-in ones are like 1,000 of them. There are like loads of them that we have here. In my case, let's just go for that allowed, okay, locations, which is a very, famous one. And if the Azure portal collaborates with me today, okay, yeah, there you go. Allowed locations, it's in here. Let's just click on that. And then I will just select the sign on the top corner in the left. And first part is, hey, what's the scope? I have the policy definition. Now I need to select the scope. And when you click here to select the scope, see, you can select the management group. You can select a subscription, or if I select here a subscription, okay, I can then, select here. Let me just select this one here. AC training ACR. Okay, basically this resource group that I have here. I select this. I can then create this with an assignment name. I'll just say allowed locations demo, and then next. What I can do is under parameters now I can select, hey, what are the um, regions that I want to allow this, and I'll just, I don't know, just randomly create here, clicked on some, okay, just that, okay, and you just review and create, and you just create this. This will not affect, before someone does that question, the running resources on that resource group. I have a resource there that is running in West Europe. I don't know if I selected West Europe. Okay, I didn't pay attention, to be honest. But if I did not, there's not a problem. That ACR that I have there in West Europe is still going to run. But is going to show up in a few moments. Okay, it takes a few minutes, like 30 minutes. It's going to show up here in the compliance dashboard as non-compliant. And that's what you want, because you want to see those that are non-compliant, so that then you can, fix those issues, because they cannot be non-compliant for forever. For sure, you need to find ways to fix, to fix that. Last bits here, so that we can do a closing. Okay, cost management. Okay, so when it comes to cost management, there are the obvious tools that I'm not going to cover: pricing calculator, Azure Migrate, to calculate costs, and all the other migration services. I'm not going to talk about them. What I'm going to talk about them is, first, you need to see cost is going to be different via the perspective from who you are. Because if you're an IT executive, you need to understand cloud spend, return on investments, and stuff like that. If you're a finance team, you need to just find the money to pay on that day, because that's when it's a due date to pay that. It's a very hard job, to be honest, to predict the company will have income and we're going to have money to pay our expenses on that day, right? It's not easy. Project teams, that probably is most of you here. We just need to deliver, have a budget, and we need to find, within that budget for our project, we need to deliver, the best that we can. So that's usually, different perspectives, but we need to understand that. And there are tools for this. First tool that I love is tags. You tag everything. You can have 50 tags per resource, 50. Okay. And it used to be 15, by the way. Okay. But now we have 50, which is like awesome. And one of them, as you can see here, is what? Like cost center. As you can see there. Oh, cost center 1 to 3, Sure. Let's do that. This is just name value pairs. And now with this, then imagine you get the report. This is a sample of a report, and you have like millions of lines in a report easily. This is like super detailed, and it's unbearable to watch, to be honest. I can't take anything out of this. So this is why, I need to find tools to help me with this. Power BI for me, is one of the big tools, but I have others. I have cost management, which is an internal tool in the Azure portal. You have the billing API, Power BI, And look, I don't like to talk about third-party products in my presentations. As a community-driven thing, I'd never talk about third-party products, but they're there. Some of them are pretty cool. Just investigate, see what's there out there, okay? They can, they cost money, but they can be profitable in the end. You can save money with them. So just watch out that, okay? Cost saving tips. Azure reservations. They can save you tons of money. Hybrid benefits. Don't pay licensing twice. You get the idea, right? Credits. Sometimes you can get credits from like funds of investment for new customers and stuff like this, programs that Microsoft runs. Check if you're eligible for one of those. Regions. There are regions that are cheaper than others. Can you run your workloads in another region without affecting compliance, regulation, stuff like this, without affecting, the quality of the services? Go for it, because it's cheaper. I can give you an example. In Europe, we have Switzerland. Switzerland is super expensive comparing with like West Europe, which is the Netherlands. And for some companies, the latency is not going to be super different, if you choose one or the other region. So yeah, legally, can I run my stuff? I can. So go for it. No question on that. Azure policies like the VM SKUs and stuff like this can save you money too. And of course, budgets, create budgets, get alerts so that you know how, things are handling. Okay. So these are just some, some tips for you. Some other more: monitor your virtual machines. check if your VMs, they are running well or not. Considering reserved instances, spot instances, consider all that can really save you, lots of money. Now there's one that I forgot to put. I need to update this slide. It's called saving plans. I don't know if you heard about those Azure saving plans. Also a great thing that we can put here, and we can save money with that too. Considering running workloads in different regions, yeah, sure, and use dev and test subscriptions for your dev and test workloads. That's a big tip too, because I see lots of customers running dev test stuff in generic subscriptions, not dev and test subscriptions. You can go to those and you can save tons of money. Like you're an EA customer, you can run those. Okay, and they are cheaper because there's like some savings on licensing and things like that. Okay, so that's it for me. Some takeaways. I always like to do these takeaways so that you can just quickly, today, tomorrow, in your organizations, implement stuff. Create a naming convention, okay, for your organization so that you can find your resources. Implement Azure policies to enforce tags so that then you're sure that you can, know how much money you're being charged for which services, and then you can charge back internally within your company. Start your Azure governance approach. This is an important one. Okay, find dev and non-use virtual machines. Maybe virtual machines are not being used. You know what to do with them. Just kill them. They're just not doing anything there. Develop machines. You still need to run them 24/7, or you can automate them to shut down with non-working hours. Again, save tons of money with that. And of course, optimize your Azure costs with RI and spot instances. Okay, so those could be also great savings for you. So this is it. So thank you very much for this time. It was a big pleasure to be here. My name is Tiago Costa, and this is how you can implement Azure Governance in Azure. So, and if you want to follow me, I have this follow.tiagocosta.com. You have the QR code, and I have all my socials there. We'll be delighted to have you as a follower. So that you can we can stay in touch. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Wow, Tiago. I mean, I would encourage everyone to attend your session, no matter they are developer, no matter they're solution architect, no matter if they're getting started or they're a sound developer or an architect or at any level, because I don't think we usually talk about this Azure governance or maybe saving about cost. Usually people move to cloud to say about cost, but then they get lost somewhere
Yeah.
and they have so many resources up and running. You covered everything. You talked about the governance, the cloud adoption framework, subscription, tenant, management groups, policies, cost saving. You covered the entire ecosystem that one could use and take a reference and definitely help running their applications on Azure. And I really liked
Mhm.
on how you started, Tiago, when you said that Azure is not just for you, right? It's not just for your team. There are different teams using it, and it's not only developers. Maybe the finance team is using to look at the cost or maybe at the budget. So that was an absolutely great session, and I see Sarah says thanks, Tiago, and Pradeep says amazing session.
Thank you.
So quick question, Tiago. I mean, I
Mhm.
see you're an advisor and you've been working out with many clients, right? So is there any I should say a pattern of mistakes or some of the common mistakes you often see when you work with the client, or maybe a couple of mistakes that everyone makes at the initial stage? Is
Oh
there
yeah,
anything that you notice?
naming convention. Not having a naming convention,
You are right.
that's I think
Oh,
that's the number one that I see. And then, to be totally honest, then it's very hard to change names in some Azure resources,
exactly.
because
Uh,
some you just can't. And then it's
mhm.
like, but I really need to. Yeah, you need to drop them and just
Oh my
create them
goodness.
again. Which sometimes, yeah, you can do it, but it will
Mm-hmm.
require, in some of them will require downtime. Or others, it will require a little bit of over engineering just to change a
Mm-hmm.
name.
Yeah.
So that happens a lot. I think it's number one. Number two, I will say leaving VMs running.
Oh, that's a very
Yeah,
common mistake. I mean, I think this is the very first thing you're taught when you're working with VMs, right? To
yeah,
stop them.
yeah. I had one customer
Mm-hmm.
that I found so many virtual machines that they didn't knew what the virtual
Mm-hmm.
machines were doing. I'm not kidding. Okay, they're like, oh, I don't know this. This is why one of the tags that I always use, that I always recommend my customers to use, is who is the owner of this Azure resource. And it's not the IT that is owner of that VM
Mm-hmm.
that's running the marketing application. It's the marketing department that's the owner of that. They are the ones that know if that a web application, let's just say, should be
Mm-hmm.
running still or not, right? Because me and the IT, I'm just providing a service to them. I don't know about that app. I don't know what the app is performing. Okay, if it's a project that's ended, sure, okay, they need to tell us. Um, so this is the kind of stuff that doing this will improve by a long shot. And of course, finding by monitoring, just finding virtual machines that you look at usage, and the usage is like nil, nothing, zero, and you're like, that's pretty weird for a VM in Azure, right? So let me just see what this is doing, and then find those VMs, and of course, in the end, try to kill them, because they probably are not supposed to be there anymore, and someone just forgot that they
Mm-hmm.
exist. Yeah,
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And Sarah on the follow-up says that tagging the owner for the resource makes it so much easier to remember who to check in with periodically to make sure the resources are used properly, efficiently, and
yeah,
optimally. That's a
exactly,
great
exactly.
advice. Yeah,
Yeah, because then we see why this VM here is not doing anything, and then we see
exactly.
there, oh, Sarah is the owner. Oh, let me just talk with Sarah. I'll just pick up the phone, talk with Sarah. Hey, Sarah, what is this VM here? And then
Mhm.
very quickly, we do what we need to do, right,
Yeah,
on that.
again, you have to be proactive, right? You have to be proactive with your resources. And
Yeah,
when you work with cross team members, sometimes you just forget things, right? You must think, or someone else is using it, right? You don't may not
yeah.
even
Look,
know.
in big corporations, people move roles,
Yeah,
they leave the company, and then I was responsible for those 50 virtual machines. I left, I go to another company, and even if we try to pass all the information, it's always overwhelming
yeah,
for the newcomers to get all that information that we collect for like 5, 6, 10 years of working there, right? And we always forget something, not on purpose, we always forget something, and then of course in some cases on purpose, people don't share stuff
yes, you're
too.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
The
it's
secret
all
recipes.
yeah, exactly, it's all that
Mhm.
in big corporations. It's pretty hard, for you not to have those things happening, that
Mhm.
sometimes people, how the hell that happens, it's really weird, but yeah, it happens all day, every day.
It
And
does. It does. You're right. You're right. So that was absolutely great, Sachin, Tiago. So much to take away just from this last 30 minutes that you've shared. I believe everyone watching it now and later on will learn a lot and will definitely help. As I said, this session is for literally everyone. You don't have to be involved at maybe a solution architect or whatever. Even if you're a developer, even a knowledge of this really helps you to get into a team's discussion whenever you're working on your product. So thank you so much, Tiago, for that session. Any final things you want to add before we wrap up the first episode of this session of this season?
uh yeah, govern your Azure subscriptions.
You are right, bang on. So thank you so much, everyone who has joined us in the comments. Thank you so much once again. We'll see you next Thursday, same time, with Sarah. Actually, Sarah is our next guest. So we're gonna meet Sarah in the next episode. Until then, thank you so much, everyone, and see you next time. Ta-ta. Bye bye. Bye,
Okay,
Tiago.
bye bye.